Hey, ¿qué onda, chavos? Bienvenidos aquí a lo que viene siendo los amigos de Downey Nissan. Bueno, ya sé, mi nombre es el Diablito. Hoy tengo a Lily y a Lori, de una organización muy, pero muy importante. And I'm so happy to have them here because, well, as you know,
Diablito, también tenemos un Nissan Rogue 2023 con muy poco millaje. Ese carro lo tenemos a $24,935 también disponible aquí. Así que si quieren más información acerca de este vehículo o cualquier otro, sea nuevo o usado, vengan por aquí a Downey Nissan y pregunten por César. El teléfono es 562-334-1089 Downey Nissan.
street takeovers and street racing have been a big, huge problem here in Los Angeles, not only in LA, but also all over the country. And they started this organization called Street Racing Kills.
Yep.
Right? That's
Yep.
it. Okay.
That's it.
I wanted to make sure I was getting the right name. And primero que nada, Lily, gracias por estar aquí.
Muchísimas gracias por estar aquí también. Gracias por la invitación.
Claro, y tenemos a Lori. Lori, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, guys, so let's get to the meat of all this. What exactly is Street Racing Kills?
Well, Street Racing Kills is a nonprofit organization. We started in 2014, right after my daughter Valentina was killed due to a street racing crash. And we decided to make sure this wouldn't happen to anyone. So we created awareness regarding the dangers of illegal street racing and reckless driving among the youth and the communities.
Now, Lily, you just mentioned that your daughter passed away because of a street racer. Can you tell us a little bit about how it happened, when it happened?
Yes, so it happened on December 7th, 2013. Valentina was 16 years old. She was going to high school. She was my little rebel, but my sweet girl at the same time, 16 years old, my little boss.
Right.
And having fun, going to high school, and she wanted to have a sleepover. However, another girl called and said she wanted them to go to a party, a high school party, before going to the sleepover.
Right.
And that's when everything changed. That's when faith completely changed. And that girl called her best friend to give them a ride to the party. And they went to this little party, and when he's taking them home, it got really late because the girl got really sick. She drank too much. So Valentina, my daughter, took care of her and made sure she was okay. And the boy that took him there said, well, I'll take you guys to your sleepover, which is 5 blocks down the street, and then I'll take her back home. And he was really worried because the girl was really sick.
Right.
So when the girls got in the car, they all fall asleep. They were really tired. They were exhausted. The other girl was really sick still, throwing up, so she was just passed out. So on the way there, he sees a coworker. And the coworker was like 21, 22. The boy that was taking them home was only like a week shy of 18. And as he's going, they get side by side. He pulls the window down, and they challenge each other to a race. Now, he has 3 teenagers in the car, 3 16-year-olds. They're naive. They're just sleeping in the backseat, waiting just to get their ride home.
Right.
None of them drove yet, none of the girls. And as he's driving, of course, he's going over 80 miles an hour in a residential area. Crashes against an SUV. It was a lady that was actually had the night shift, and she worked as a longshoreman. Crashes against her, then that deviated him and crashed right through a fence. When Valentina's first, friend woke up because she fainted, she looks to the right, and Valentina's hanging from the window, and she's dead.
Oh, my goodness.
And it took me a while, to realize what happened. For a long time, I wasn't okay. I just got that death notification that they told me that my daughter was dead from a crash. But I didn't know what killed her. I just knew something happened that was really bad. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know if somebody hit them, what was going on, until later when I was able to read the report. And if you ask me right now, when did you go back to work? I don't remember. But I remember going back to work, and that's when I read the report. I couldn't work, so I got out and parked in a parking lot, sat there, and started reading it, and saw that that's what happened. And I said, well, what did I do wrong? So, Mom, was I a bad mom? Was I not strict enough or too lenient?
You started blaming yourself.
Yes. Or I said, what did she do wrong? Was she a bad teenager, for going to a party and a sleepover? And I was like, you know what? I said, if he didn't race, if he didn't speed over 80 miles an hour, my daughter would have been okay.
Right.
She was also on seatbelted in the back seat.
And she still was hanging out the window.
Yeah, because it was 2 crashes. It was one first against the car, and he went right through a fence. The seat in front of her went off the railing. I ended up under the dashboard, which gave her all this room for her to just fly and hit her head all over the car. And she
that's
hit
only
her.
80 miles an hour.
That's only 80 miles an hour. You can imagine these cars are now going over 100.
Easy.
Right?
Yeah.
So we have learned so much. And I just never heard about street racing, never heard about speed killing so many people, never heard about traffic violence the way it exists right now. But
Right.
I knew, though, that I was going to do something about it because this is my daughter.
Right. And that's when you started this organization.
Oh, yeah. Within 5 months, I was at my first high school
Speaking.
speaking to kids about a topic that was not really talked about.
Right.
Yep.
And along the way, you met Lori.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. So, when something happens to you, you hear it more. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I heard street racing everywhere. Oh, a crash. And I was like, oh, my God. So I'm collecting all these crashes, putting them on Facebook. I had a page. I was already a nonprofit. And I see this horrible crash. By now, there's these cameras everywhere, right? And they were showing the crash of this young woman killed, being T-boned. And I was like, I want to meet the family. And I got lucky enough that they called me, Lily, there's got town hall meetings about street racing. Why don't you go? And that's when I went, looking for the parents. But I see this young woman crying. I didn't know that was her aunt, right? And that's Lori. That's how many years ago, Lori?
6 years ago.
6 years ago.
I gave Lori my card, hoping that she would call me back.
And eventually she did. Lori, you
I
called
did.
Lily.
I did, actually. Lily saved me because this was the most tragic thing our family has ever been through. But it was actually Mother's Day when we were notified about her death. And so,
Mother's Day.
yeah, so the crash was all over the news. So what happened, Bethany and her little brother were at her dad's house. And they ended up there because Bethany got into an argument with her boyfriend, and she, blew off some steam, went to her
Right.
dad's house, and she runs into her little brother. As they're there, they decided, this is the day before Mother's Day, to surprise their mom and meet up the night before. They were going to drive over to her mom's house, and they were going to surprise her so they could wake up Mother's Day together. Bethany had a little girl at the time, and she was only a couple blocks away. She was at her other aunt's house. So they were going to go pick her up. They were going to come to my house, drop off a gift for Grandma, and then they were going to go to her mom's house. And as they were driving, they had just left their dad's house. It was only 2 blocks away. And these 2 young men decided to street race down this residential street. They were going about 100 miles per hour down a residential street when they ran the stop sign. And they never seen Bethany and my nephew crossing their path. And so they had no time to stop. And they hit my niece on her side of her vehicle. And so 100 miles per hour basically breaks every bone in your body. My niece's autopsy report showed that he broke every bone in her body. And it was really difficult because, my family, we wanted to understand, like, why her, and how did she die? And we knew it was a street race, but we didn't understand, like, the dynamics of it. And this was a hit and run, so.
Oh, they left.
Yeah, they left the scene. So there was
They
a lot of.
got out of the car and ran. Because
Yeah,
there's no way they could have left in the car.
No, the car was totaled.
Oh, my goodness.
He actually jumped into the car that he was racing, and they took off in the other vehicle. And there was a lot of families. It was Mother's Day weekend, so a lot of people were celebrating Mother's Day. So there's a lot of people that witnessed the crash. And this is when the Ring camera had just came out. So
Right.
a lot of people caught the crash on camera, like as they were racing, to when they actually hit her, to when they jumped in the vehicle and they actually left the scene. So all of that was on camera. So when we were notified, we weren't notified till the following day. She was the crash was really bad, so she was a Jane Doe taken to the coroner's office, and she wasn't taken out of the vehicle until 4 a.m.
Okay,
Mother's Day.
so the accident happened, and you guys were, I guess, celebrating Mother's Day
Well,
and
this
waiting
was
for her.
Saturday, nobody knew. They didn't tell any of us
Oh,
that they were
okay.
going to surprise their mom. So we didn't know. The accident occurred, the crash occurred on Saturday.
Right.
She was pronounced dead at 10:33 p.m. on May 11th, 2019. She wasn't taken out of the vehicle until 4 a.m. on Mother's Day morning because the crash was really bad. So they had to wait for the jaws of life to get her out. And my nephew was in critical condition. So they took him to the ICU.
But none of you guys knew this was all going
No,
on.
we had no idea.
And what were you guys thinking? Like, oh, they're just still out and about?
Well, it was until the next day because, my niece is 23 at the time. My nephew's 20, right? And
They're grown adults,
Yeah,
you
they're
guys-
adults,
yeah,
right?
so you're wondering-
Mother's Day, they
Yeah.
don't show up. So 11 o'clock comes by and nobody's, they're not there. So we started making phone calls and
Oh my goodness.
started looking at stuff. But, that's something that you never crosses your mind, right? That, your family members have been in a horrific car crash or one that they're dead. Like that never, ever crossed our mind. Even when time passed.
Lori, that's...
Yeah, we weren't. And it wasn't until 5 p.m. That's when I received the phone call. And I was asked to identify her body. And I was the closest to the coroner's office. And so I didn't know at the time what happened. I just was asked to come to the coroner's office. And I remember when they told me, they were like, we think, we have your niece. We think, So I ran with the words, we think. And I think your mind helps you get through tragedies like this. So I kept saying, maybe it's somebody else, maybe it's not her. Maybe somebody stole her car. And I didn't really know the whole story at the time. But nope, it's just when you get there, it was, it's hard. It's really hard. And when you get there, having to identify your loved one is like one of the hardest things I think anybody would ever have to do. And it's something you'll never forget. And a piece of you dies with them, right? Like I'll never be the same. But it also is why I work so hard for the organization, because I don't want another family to go through what my family went through. This was 100% preventable. She should have never lost her life that day. Her little girl now does not have an amazing mother. She was such a great mom. And so she has now lost out on her mom, raising her.
Right. Now, Lily, the driver, did they survive? I didn't catch that. Did they survive the accident?
Yes, the driver survived with a broken rib and a fractured ankle.
And what happened to him?
He went to juvenile hall because he was charged as a minor, not as an adult, because he was a week later when he turned 18, and he did some time.
Okay.
Very little time with him.
Do you talk to him now?
No.
No, okay.
No, we talked when it happened because I didn't know who he was.
Right.
And I was like, who was this guy that was giving them a ride home? He was a friend of Ezra, the other girl. And I did wanted to know who he was because I didn't know what happened. And I was able to talk to him, meet him, and we cried together. He cried. He was just didn't know what the heck. He even told me, he's like, do you know what it is that you kill a friend and nobody wants to talk to you and everybody hates you? I can't leave my house because I feel like everybody wants to kill me. I have to stay home. This is before the trial. And he kind of grabbed me like as a mom, and I'm mourning my daughter at the moment, right? But and he says, I am going to admit to all the charges. And that's what he had told him to do, and he did. However, he didn't come out the same. He did not come out the same. When he came out, it was different. He was angry. He didn't want to accept what he did, and that made me, even not want to talk to him. Yes.
More, yeah.
And but you forward 9 years later, my husband, because I remarried, he didn't know Valentina. It's sitting there at a store. And I go because we have a scholarship. We should talk about my programs in a little bit. I had my scholarship the next day. So I'm doing all these things, and I leave. And this guy just stops, goes to my husband. I'm already gone. He goes, hey, was that Tilly that just left? He's like, yeah, this is like an older now, a 29-year-old man, right? And the time he was like 18. And he goes, is that Lily? He goes, that's my wife. How can I help you? He said, I am the man that killed her daughter.
Oh, my goodness.
So he's like looking at him like, how can I help you? And he says, I want you to tell her that there's not a day that I don't think of Valentina. That there's not a day that I wake up in the morning and I wish it was me who died. I have 2 daughters now, and I could not imagine my life without them. Please let her know that I think of her every day, and that when you kill someone, it weighs on you. I left.
Lori, and you, the guy that jumped into the other dude's car, what happened? What was the end result with them?
So he was ultimately caught 3 months after the crash. He was convicted of felony hit and run, vehicular manslaughter, and bodily injury to a passenger because my nephew's injuries were so severe. My nephew actually, in this crash, his skull was crushed, his cheekbone was crushed, his eye socket was crushed, his mouth, all the teeth on the left side of his face were knocked out, his arm was broken, and his pelvis was broken. So he was in a coma, and they told us he wasn't going to make it. So we were in the ICU with him. praying that we weren't going to bury both of them. And so he survived, definitely a miracle child, but, long road to recovery. And so it was one of the charges that actually was put on him also because of the severe injuries to my nephew. So he was given a plea deal. He got a 7-year plea deal for what occurred that day.
So he's out already.
He's out already.
Yeah.
But, honestly, when you take somebody's life, families are given an opportunity to give a victim impact statement. And I remember going up there and giving the victim impact statement for my family. And I realized, I was really angry at the moment. But what I realized was, nobody won that day. Right? Everybody lost that day. My family wasn't the only family crying in that courtroom. I realized that his family was there and they were crying. And even though they would still talk to their son or brother or cousin or uncle again one day, they were still losing somebody. And his mom had to live with the fact that her son took somebody's life, and he has to live with the fact that he took somebody's life and a little girl's growing up without her mom because of his actions. Yeah,
what I learned from Georgina, who's the SoCal rep for MAD, something that stuck in my mind is that a lot of people do not realize that their actions affect everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. It doesn't affect them only. It definitely affects mom, dad, tío, tía, grandma, best friend.
Friends, yeah.
And they don't understand that they also carry that burden because it's just a crazy part of
even
life.
the community, the day of her crash, all these families were celebrating Mother's Day weekend. Yeah. And so they had to witness her lose her life that day. And they will never forget that. Till this day, I still talk to them, and they still have walks in honor of Bethany. But their lives have changed. Their kids, you have mothers, fathers, kids that were all there that had to see her, take her last breath. And that's hard. Right. That's really hard.
And now you guys have the Street Racist Kills. How does this program impact people, and is it changing lives? Is it changing ideas?
Gosh, yeah.
Is it working? Because in the news we all see these takeovers, and of course I know we're in media, and so we exaggerate because obviously it's ratings. We see all this craziness, but in reality, is it changing? Are you guys changing people?
I 100% believe so, especially because this comes from our heart. Everybody that is in the SRK team and in this organization, we're victims, and or whether one side or the other. Whether we have one of our speakers that he actually was chasing his girlfriend and they ended up crashing and a little girl died, and he was Lori's neighbor, and they were growing up, and he did 22 years in prison, and he speaks to them. So everybody in the SRK has been affected somehow, know. So this is what makes our programs be so impactful in your heart, because we're coming from a place of love. We're coming from a place of like, I don't want this to happen to you. I don't want your mother to lose you. I don't want your best friend to be without you and see you dying. I don't want your best friend to go to jail or you go to jail and your life will be changed forever.
Right.
So everything that we do is from our heart. And I actually, the first thing that I did after Val passed away, I remember I spoke at a school. And later on, I found this little box under my bed that I guess they gave me and it was from MAD, Mother Second Stone
Now,
Drivers.
when you say you guys go talk to schools, what ages are we talking about here?
High school.
High school?
I'll tell you about our programs.
And all the way to adults. You know, we have high school education, community education, and diversion.
Okay.
Yeah, so we actually go to high schools. We go to community events. We go to
do they invite
teen
you,
centers,
or principals that perhaps are watching this right
Absolutely.
now? Can they reach out to you guys and you guys go?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. We love going to high schools. We take a crash car. We take a CHP officer or their local police
Is this free
officers.
for the schools, or is
Yes,
there
we're
like
a nonprofit.
nonprofit? Okay.
Yeah.
Now-
Sometimes they offer us like do a
Donation.
school contract.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
gave us. We went to like Compton. They just gave us a contract with which they're paying us. So that we're like, oh, thank you. But it's like a donation.
Yeah.
And we go. They have us for the whole year.
Yeah.
Wow.
And anything they give us, we get to invest that in the children, right? So
Right.
we get to buy them like these cute backpacks, folders. We buy them stuff that have Street Racing Kills on it to remind them of the stories that we're telling them. Because, we usually go with speakers, right? So you have us that tell our stories, but then we also have Raul. He was in jail for 22 years and he killed somebody. So you get to hear it from him. We have another young man, Walker. When he was 18 years old, he killed 2 people because he was going 130 miles per hour in his Charger.
130.
130, and he thought nobody was on the street. And this is where we've learned so much, because the stories that we hear all the time are like, I didn't realize this was going to happen to me. I didn't think anybody was on the street. I thought that it was safe. I thought that I was only endangering myself, you know? So it's like you don't realize the impact this can have, like we said, on multiple people.
Right.
But at the moment, it's the adrenaline rush. You're having a good time, but you don't realize that your consequences, I mean, your actions have severe consequences. And we tell the stories of when they deadly, you know, when they're deadly, when the consequence. But also, we like to have our speakers that have actually been the ones that committed the crime, because their consequences are different, right? They either serve time or they have to live with the fact that they killed somebody. And that's they've told us, like, from depression to almost killing themselves, having to live with that is not easy. It's a very hard burden. So by them sharing their stories, they've been able to help make changes.
So that box that you found from Mad, that ended up being what?
What was it? So I find the box, and I called the number. It was Georgina from Mad Mass, and I became their volunteer for many years. And I said to myself, how can I get into the high schools at the beginning with the name of Street Racing Kills? Everybody was like, they wouldn't let me in. But with Mad, they told me, as long as you share, because Valentina went to a party where there was alcohol. Remember, the girl got really sick. So as long as you share,
she was drinking underage.
Yes. So she told me, as long as you share that, you can share what really killed Valentina.
Right.
So I would share that, and I could share about street racing.
Right.
So I went to so many schools with them and events with them. As the same time I'm running my own organization and growing my organization.
Right.
Here comes the pandemic, right? In the pandemic, everybody went crazy. As you know, takeovers is when they took over. It was not a pandemic within the pandemic, right? The pandemic of the takeovers, which is now nationwide and even worldwide. I mean, they're everywhere. But as that grew, I grew. So Street Racing Kills grew with the problem. However, people sometimes think that there's nothing done being about it, right? Because it's so big. Right. But if you can imagine a fire in a forest, how long does it take the firemen to finally, do something about it? Finally, it takes a long time. So it's the same thing. There is a lot being done about it. We've done a lot of legislation, bills that had passed. Our programs have grown like you have no idea, specific for takeovers, specific for speeding, and that recklessness of the people, the way they drive, from young men to adults. You
were telling me that you guys get involved with people who get arrested. You go and talk to them, right?
Yeah. Diversion program.
It's called what?
Our diversion program is called the Reckless Driving Intervention Program, and this one's near and dear to my heart because
I love that. I love the fact that you guys are given the opportunity to tell this bonehead, look, man, you got arrested. You didn't kill nobody this time around, maybe, I think. Yeah. Depending on who you guys are talking to. This and this and this and this and this could happen.
We had a class last night, and it was very impactful.
We love it.
Oh, I would love for you to invite me to one of these, just to observe. I would
when you see them, how they come in and they're giggling, because we have to talk to them like, so what happened in your case at the beginning?
We come in like, we're bad. We don't need this.
I was going 100 miles per hour.
The chopper was chasing me.
I was evading. Nothing's going to happen to me. They're kind of cocky in the beginning. At the end, they're crying. At the end, they're like, I will never do this again. Thank you for sharing your story with me. Yeah. I think when they come in, right, they really do feel like nothing bad's going to happen. It wasn't a big deal.
Unstoppable.
They're annoyed. Oh, I got to take this class. The court told me that I take this class. Oh, they're all at night. They're 6 to 9 p.m. Oh, my gosh. Well,
if you think about it, the reason why, obviously our missions are for our loved ones, right? Bethany and Valentina are we call them our bosses. They make us work really hard. She was telling me
that her boss is her daughter.
Yeah. Valentina and Bethany are our bosses, but they were bossy when they were in this world, and they're bossy up there. But when we give this class, we give it with our hearts, right? And we're not there to scold them. We're not there to tell them, to judge them. We're just there to tell them the reality.
This is a great. What do I want to say? This is like a great opportunity because you're saving their lives, and if they don't take it, then they miss out. So this is what you both are doing. Is amazing, and thank you for literally keeping the community safe, because that's what you both are doing.
Thank you.
And without you guys, you wouldn't have these guys that came in cocky and everything leave crying, or understanding what life is about.
Yes.
So you guys are changing the world.
Yeah,
now,
thank you.
Why do they do it? Do you guys ask them, why do you guys get crazy? And what's the main reason?
Adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
That's one of the ones, right? I feel like, you agree with me, I feel like some of them, not all of them, come from other broken homes as well, especially the takeovers, right? And during the pandemic, there was nothing to do. And a lot of them just ended up getting together and formed this community of friendship, of brotherhood. And they all didn't understand each other.
Right.
But it became like we're doing recklessness things, and it just grew.
Right.
You know, as the takeovers grew. This is not about just guys doing their donuts. You have people that are spectating, right? And when there's this big party, I always tell them, just remember that's not your party, it's everybody's party. So what comes there? All kinds of activity. People that want to loot the 7-Eleven that's right next door. People that want to, put out their gun and throw some shots in the air. People that would get somebody, I don't like that guy, I'm going to stab him. So I always tell them how dangerous it is. You bring your life at danger not only with the takeover of being too close, also when it hits you, you're being daring, right? Because your friends are there too. There's one part that we always talk about, Lori, that video. You want to talk about the video?
Well, I think I want to add. I want to add to why they do this. So adrenaline is a big reason why they do it. Another thing are trends, right? So when in talking, I always ask them.
Is it social media that makes them do this?
Social media, trends, like video games. And I always tell them, you're not in a video game. That you don't have 9 lives.
Right, you don't get to respawn.
You don't get you can't rewind.
You can't do that, right? This is the reality is you can lose your life for real, right? Or you could take somebody's life for real and go to jail for real. But there's these trends. One time I asked one of our kids, I'm like, hey, why do you go to the takeovers? And he goes, well, there's a trend right now that whoever can get the closest to the car doing the donuts in the middle and videotape, that's what we're trying to do, and we get more likes. Wow. So they're getting us close to these vehicles without getting hit, right? And then now you have the trend of them hanging out of the windows while they're doing the donuts, and we've seen them lose their lives that way too. So it's a different generation.
O sea, todo lo que hacen tienen un por qué lo hacen.
Sí, exactamente. O sea, lo hacen por algo, por atención, por tener muchos likes en TikTok and Instagram, ¿verdad?
And this all starts at home, right? Because it all starts at home. If you don't have good parents. Well, I don't like to sugarcoat stuff, but it's the reality. If parents don't get involved in their kids' life and take care of them or guide them, it's their responsibility and it's their fault. No, that's how I feel as a parent.
Well, I just tell parents, I think what we do too, we educate parents. We do meet with a lot of parents and we educate parents. And one of the things that my poor kids, I tell them, you don't have privacy because it is on social media, right? So who are they following? What are they doing to get invited to these takeovers? Are they modifying their cars all of a sudden? Are they doing these things that they're like little clues of being part of being in this takeover scene or crowd or, just enjoying cars. So I think, it's a lot about educating, how do you enjoy your car safely, right? How do you teach your kids if they like to street race? Maybe they want to be a race car driver one day, take them to the track, right? Yeah. So there's things like that. But as a parent, you really just, unfortunately with social media, you got to be up in your kids' business.
And parents, you have to admit, a lot of parents are working parents. They're not there all day. And one of the things that I do remember in my case is that I was working all day. I was a single mom at the time. Yeah. And all I cared about was making sure they ate, make sure they went to school, right? Making sure they did their homework and make sure I paid my bills. I forgot. I didn't think I would ever be affected. Right. So this is why we do parent conferences. And we've done so many that we make sure that we're doing sometimes on a weekend. Because if we're doing during the week, which we've done, you get you get the homestay moms. Right. The ones that are always home, the ones that can be in all the activities for their kids. Right. They're not working. So they're very engaged, right? It's awesome if we can get them. But what about those that are working all day? Right. And they're innocent about traffic violence. They think everything's okay. They just concentrate. So this is why educating the public, educating the families as much as we can to make sure that this doesn't happen. And it doesn't matter. Street racing, speeding, doesn't know what color you are. If you're rich, if you're poor, if you're gay, if you're bisexual, where you come from, nothing. It is the human being acting because we have people from Malibu. They're racing and they're speeding. They're going over 100 miles an hour. We have people from the Valley. We have people from Orange County. And, of course, come everywhere. And then when you see these, and adults, we get adults as well too, in our program.
Right. Now, there's mostly guys, right?
Mostly.
But now there's girls getting involved.
Yes. Yeah, there's definitely girls. Yeah, we have girls too. We have girls that run through our programs. Actually, I'm not gonna lie, the girls are better drivers than and maybe it's our reaction time. I don't know. But the girls, we joke about that. Some of the girls are actually some pretty damn good drivers out there, and we love to get them in the track and tell them, all right, show us your skills in the track, and they end up falling in love with it. So, and so do the guys. It's a great experience. To go
because
to the
I want to make sure that everybody knows that you guys love the car culture. It's just
we do.
the illegal stuff that you guys don't like. Obviously, the street racing, the takeovers. But you guys are car culture people, and love it, and just want to keep everyone safe out there.
Yeah, the negativity is killing the car culture, right? So like these car clubs can't even meet up anymore and show off their cars without getting the negative impact of takeovers, right? People think they're meeting up to do donuts or take over the streets. So like those of you that love the car culture and want to show off your beautiful cars, it's having an impact on everybody, right? And this year, the laws have changed quite a bit.
Yes, we don't have too much minutes left, but I wanted to talk to you about that because the new law kicked. Well, it's not even a new law, right, Lily? Because we spoke about this. It's been around, but now officially this year,
the cars. Yes,
this year they could totally take your car away.
Yes, 100%. Now the new law that came in will take your car. Before they would take it or they wouldn't take it. Now they have to take it. Yeah. So your car will be impounded, Wow. I think they're lucky that they're not crushing it. But we talk about the fees all the time when we talk to them.
Towing fees are crazy.
Even if one day we ask people how much was it, and they're like $700 for one day, $900 for one day. Then some get the 30-day impound, and it's like $3K.
Some of them just leave the car. They're like, you know what? I just lost it. That's how much I paid for, or how much down payment. So I might as well get a new car. Right. Some of them even tell us, you know what? It was too much temptation. I don't even want a sports car anymore. It's too much temptation for me. I want to go fast on it.
Well, right behind you guys, there used to be a very beautiful Nissan GTR, and it's gone now because they bought it.
Oh, see? Well, you buy these cars.
But those cars are
with so much power.
Yeah, but like you guys have been on the track.
Yes.
Laura, you were telling me that you've been inside a car that's fast. Do you drive fast speeds too?
Well, I love the track. I have no problem getting on the track. I actually was in the car with one of our officers, Jimenez, and he's a CHP officer, and we were in his personal Scat Pack. And he takes his Scat Pack to the track, and then we were racing a detective who races the kids at the track in his Camaro.
Detective Arms?
Yeah, Detective Arms. He has his...
Look at you guys, man.
Yeah,
you guys are all smiles and stuff.
Yeah, LAPD Motorsports. LASD Motorsports. They're another nonprofit, and they have a Camaro, and they have their black and white. They turn on the lights, and they put the song Bad Boys on, and they'll race you at the track. So we tell our I always say kids because they're younger than me, but I always say, we tell the kids, hey, let's go take it to the track, and you can race a cop and not get a ticket for it, and bragging rights if you beat him. But nobody beats him. He's been building cars since he was 15, and his car always smokes everybody.
So you mentioned tracks. There's not a lot of tracks here in Los Angeles, right? Because now they closed down Irwindale.
That's where we used to go.
So what's going to happen now? Do you guys have any insight?
I heard. Yeah, go ahead. What'd you hear?
Well, we're trying. We are working with the city supervisors to find ways to open up another track in Los Angeles, closer to everyone. It's going to take time. But one thing that we do like is after all these years that I've been trying to make sure they will reopen Terminal Island.
Wow.
And but unfortunately the port owns it.
Right.
And that's probably like a lost battle. But we always try. However, what we are happy with is that finally now elected officials and everybody, it's on our side saying they know there's a need. They know it will help to get rid of not completely the problem, because the knuckleheads with the knuckleheads all the time.
Yes.
But if you think about taking care of maybe 60-80% of the people, you know how many lives would be saved by giving them a place to go as well. Yeah. And I would call it the track No Excuses. Because
look at you. You already have everything planned. Look at you.
It used to be House Raceway, and I'm like, no excuses. You have a place to go. It is close to LA. You can go. I want to give them their Disneyland. I want to give them burnout boxes.
Lily, look at you.
You know, I want it to be, I even told them one day, you know what? I want to make it, I want to put like street lights. I want to make it like a city, backgrounds, and a huge mural for all of those that have been killed.
Yeah, that lost their lives.
Watch that, because when we talk to them, they've lost friends.
Right.
We had one that used to come all the time to speak free. He was one of our, he spoke because he got a ticket. And he came back, I want to talk about my friend that died. And he come and talk about his friend, how famous he was and what happened to him. You know,
Andrew.
so it is important. Yeah.
Yeah.
it
Oh,
is
you're throwing
important.
it out in the air, so
Yeah.
it's gonna happen. And
We want to track. We want to give them their Disneyland. We want to make sure we make it. Have also workshop for kids where they can go and learn how to change a tire, learn how to work as mechanics. I
Yep.
mean, give them what they love. You know, why not,
Yeah,
right? And
maybe.
keep educating and just.
Yeah.
It's something that it helps us keep our loved ones with us.
Absolutely.
It's something that we didn't think we would ever do. Like I didn't go to
Never.
school to become a program. You know, like there's people that go to school, they're program directors
Right.
for
Yeah.
nonprofits. We created all our programs. Everything is from love, from scratch for the need that we need to do and to make sure that I can keep Valentina with me. She can Bethany with her. And anybody that is with us, it's a way of keeping our loved ones with us and make sure that death is not in vain and they can save life with us.
wow,
Absolutely.
guys.
Yeah,
Man.
like, you know, think about it. Like when we buried my niece, right? I promised my niece that I was going to make sure that her death wasn't in vain and that I would keep her memory alive. You know, Bethany and Valentina were young. We have a hashtag for them.
Yeah.
Hashtag live for Val, forever 16, and hashtag live for Betty, forever 23. Because unfortunately, their lives were cut short and they'll forever be 16 and 23 years old. But through these programs, we're making sure that kids live what they could not live.
Right.
That they remember them and that they keep their stories, you know, in their mind so that they make better choices moving forward.
Of course. Guys, you guys are amazing. You guys are definitely, I wouldn't say angels because you guys are not, you know, your daughters, your niece are the
Yeah.
angels, your bosses that are making this. And I applaud you guys, seriously,
Thank
on
you.
behalf of parents who worry about their kids going to school, going to work, that are driving every day. That's me. You know, I'm glad you guys are trying to keep the streets safe. And I hope that this message, people could share this video just because it is important. You know, they share makeup tips and stuff like that, which is good. You know, I understand. Or they share weird, funny cat videos. But this is really important. And I hope that you that are watching this could share because, you know, it could be your niece, could be your daughter, it could be your nephew that's driving and, you know, gets smacked at 100 and something miles an hour, and you guys, you know, and I just wouldn't want you guys to go. I didn't want to ask you guys how you guys really, because I wanted this to be more positive. I don't-
Yeah,
you
no,
know, that
absolutely.
No, no,
People
no.
crying, but you understand what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely.
Yes.
No. But
I'm
it's
really-
a reality, right?
yeah.
It's a reality,
Thank
and
you.
we're doing something about it. And, you know, visit us at streetracingkills.org.
Yes.
You can learn more about the organization. We have plenty of free programs. We have scholarships for our teams to be able to pay for the behind-the-wheel driving school so the next generation drives safely. High schools call us. You want us to come, give us
Yes.
a ring, and we'll be at your high
Happy,
school to educate
yes.
the teens, communities. You want us at an event, we will be there, and we're more than happy to share our programs and information with the communities.
Awesome. All right, guys. Lily, Lori, thank you so much for being here, and I
Thank you.
appreciate you guys, you know, being out there and putting the good word because we definitely need it.
Thank you
Thank you
so
for
much.
having
Thank
us.
you for
All right, guys,
having us.
thanks.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Entonces, los amigos de Downey Nissan, we'll see you guys next week.